Hello everyone, this is Pippin Williamson with pippinsplugins.com, and I'm going to show you how to create a simple rating field for easy content types. This is going to be a simple field that you can see right here where we have a star rating, 1 through 5 stars, and also a numerical rating, 1 through 5. And when we look at this on the front end, it's going to look about like this, where we have given our item, in this case a movie, it could be a book, it could be a CD, it could be anything. We've given it a star rating, and you can see the stars right here. We see 5 stars, and then we have a numerical rating as well for 3. So it's going to be technically 2 different field types, and it's actually pretty simple, but it's going to cover quite a bit of code. A lot of what we're going to do in this tutorial is going to be very, very similar to what we did in the registering custom meta field types or easy content types tutorial. So if you haven't watched that one yet, go back and look at it, because a lot of the code we're going to use is pretty much the same, and I'm going to move pretty quickly because there's a lot of code to cover. So if you haven't, go and take a look at how you register custom meta field types with the Easy Content Types plugin, because it's pretty simple, but it's going to be a lot easier to follow this tutorial if you already have a good understanding of how it works. So what we're going to do is make these 2 field types real quickly. So the first thing that we need to do is open up our plugin. And right now I just have a blank plugin right here called Rating Field Type Add-on. And we are going to add in, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to write a function that's going to register our new field types. So we write function ECPT rating field types. We pass an array of the existing field types. And once again, if you haven't looked at the previous tutorial, go back and look at it now, because I'm not going to explain all of the methods for how this works. I'm just going to show you how we're going to do it. So if you want to actually understand exactly what we're doing with, for example, the existing field types, go back and look at the previous tutorial. So now we're going to pass in our new field types. So we set up a new array key equals star rating. And then we're going to do number rating as well. And then we simply return the field types. Okay, and now we need to set up a filter, and this is called ECPT field types. So what we're doing is we're simply passing our new modified array through the easy content types filter, which this is going to register our new field types with the plugin. So if we go in here and go into meta boxes, you'll see that if we go in, edit fields, and add a new one, that our star rating and our number rating are both available here now, because they've been successfully registered as we pass them through this filter. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to actually set up the HTML for these fields. And the HTML, what I mean by that, is the HTML that you're going to see in the meta box. So that's the HTML that's going to be rendered right here. Notice that since the only thing I've done is registered my field types, all I have is the name of the field. We don't have any of the HTML up here. So we need to go set that up. So we set up a new function, ECPT rating field HTML. This gets 3 parameters, field HTML, field, and meta. So this first one is a string that contains all of the HTML for all of the fields. The second one is all of the field attributes. And the third is the actual stored meta value. Okay, and now we pass this through a filter, add filter, ECPT fields HTML. Second parameter is the name of our function. Then it's 10, which is the priority, and 3, which states the number of arguments. So this is 3 arguments, so we need 3 down here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to use a switch function, a switch statement. So switch field type. So what this basically means is that we want to do something specifically for each individual field type. At the very bottom, we're going to return the field HTML. So now, inside of our switch statement, we're going to do a case for the star rating. So basically, if it's a star rating field, we want to do this. Case number rating, do something else. So inside of each of these case statements, we're going to set up the necessary field HTML for each kind of field. So for the star field, first thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a basic select element. So select name equals, what we do is we simply pass the field ID like this, and ID equals the field ID, just like that. Okay, so there's our basic select field. Now let's go down here and let's close it out. HTML, whoops, equals, dot equals. Okay, so just so that we can see that this is working, let's go take a look at this here. Whoops, I did something wrong. Oops, forgot the first caret. Okay, so now we see an empty select field. So we have our select dropdown, and now what we need to do is we simply need to populate all of the options. Well, the first option that we're going to have is going to be the default. So this is going to be value is none. So basically there's no rating. And then we're going to say choose a rating, just like that. So now if we go look at this again, we now have choose a rating, and that's our only option. So now what we want to do is we're going to kind of set up we're going to do a loop real quick so that we can dynamically show a number of stars. And that'll make a little bit more sense in a moment. But because we want to make this really easy to customize, let's say you want a 10-star rating system instead of a 5-star. Well, we're going to make that really easy. So what we do is we're going to set up a for loop. So for I equals 1, I is less than or equal to 5. So 5 is the total number of stars that you want to set up. And I plus plus. If you're not familiar with how for loops work, then I suggest that you go take a look at the PHP reference for the for loop. They're pretty simple and they're really, really useful, but they're a little bit different than other loops, so they might confuse you a little. So now, for each time, basically this is going to iterate 5 times. So each time that we go through, we're going to set up a new option. So field HTML equals option, value equals I. So for the first time it would go through, I is going to be 1, second time I is 2, third time I is 3, fifth time I is 5. So value equals, and then what we need to do is detect whether this field is selected. And the way that we do that is using the selected function. Selected, I, meta. So basically, if I and meta are the same thing, then we're going to output selected equals selected so that this field remains selected. Okay, and then we close out our option, and now field underscore HTML dot equals. Okay, so now what we should have, once I fix that double quote, is this. We have 5 options, but they're all blank. If we go and look at the source code, we see this. Value 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now what we need to do is we need to actually modify the actual value, not the value, but the text for the option to display a star. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually use a special HTML character that is going to output a star. So now we're going to use another for loop for stars equal 1. Stars are less than or equal to, let's see, stars are less than or equal to I, and stars plus plus. So what this is going to do is it's basically going to say we're going to set up a stars variable, set it to 1. Then we're going to check whether our star is less than or equal to I, and then increase stars each time this loop runs. So let me finish this out real quick, and then I'll kind of be able to explain more of what exactly this does. So our special HTML character code is this. And now, here's what happens. Each time it goes through, we start with 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, and then 5 stars. So basically, we have a loop within a loop. So the first time that I runs, we're going to output an option. And in this case, I equals 1. So while stars is less than or equal to 1, show 1 star. The second time it goes through, I is going to be equal to 2. So in the inner loop, stars is less than or equal to 1, and then it runs again, less than or equal to 2, so it outputs a second star. And it does that all the way up until we have 5 stars, as you can see right here. So that is our star rating HTML. Now we need to do the number rating HTML. And this one is going to be very, very similar. So I'm going to simply copy this HTML. And the only thing that we're really going to do differently is we're not going to have the inner loop. Since it's just a regular numerical rating, we can do this. Inside of our option, we can simply output I, like that. And now we have 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just like that. Okay, cool. So we now have our options, and if we go in here, we can save them. Now what we want to do is we want to actually set up our automatic display functions. So if we go over here now and refresh, you'll notice that the stars are not displayed at all. If we go into our settings, what we have are all of these options for our automatic display functions. So let's go down to movies, and you'll note we don't have an option for star ratings or number rating. So we want to add those. It's actually pretty easy to add. It's a little bit of code. It's a little bit complicated, but I'm going to show you how to do it. So what we do is we set up a new function, ECPT show rating field type in auto display. I know that's a really, really ridiculously long function name, but whatever. It makes sense. Display, value, and field. This is basically exactly the same as the field HTML. So display is basically the HTML that is going to be returned. The value is the stored meta value, and the field is all of the field attributes. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to set up another field, another switch statement, just like this. So we're going to do switch field dash type in switch. At the very end, we're going to return the display. And now we're going to do case star rating break. Case number rating, fix that semicolon, break. So now, inside of each of these case statements, we need to actually output the HTML for each of these ratings. The automatic display function has a predefined HTML that it uses, so I'm going to use that exact same HTML, and because of that, I'm just going to copy and paste this, what we have here. So this is the basic HTML format. It's simply a list item with a couple of divs inside of it that will output all of our information. So basically, this one for the number rating has nothing more than a numerical value outputted. So we don't have to do anything special. The star rating is going to be a little bit different. So let's take this and let's drop it in up here. So now we want to actually modify this, because what needs to happen is we want to output the number of stars. In the same way that we have the stars here, we want to output those stars here as well. So we need to do another for loop, basically. Do the exact same thing that we did before. And I'm going to simply, let's see, I'm going to output this here. I'm inside of the ECPT field content div. So I'm going to modify this just a little bit. Just to make it a little bit easier to read and follow. Okay, so now right here, we will do a for loop. For I equals 1, I is less than or equal to value. Remember, value is what is stored in the meta field. So if we have selected 4 here, then we'll have the number 4 stored in the value. I++, just like that. And now display dot equals span. So each star is going to be wrapped inside of a span tag. Then we're going to do the HTML special character, which is to display a star, just like that, span. And we're going to use the span for a little bit of styling. So now let's take a look and see if everything has come out right. If we refresh, oh, we get an error. So let's see, what line is our error on? It's on line 86. So we go down here, we take a look at it, and sure enough, I have a single quote instead of a semicolon there. So now let's refresh. And now you'll see it didn't actually do anything. So what we need to do is we need to actually go through and enable this field to be displayed in the automatic display settings. And the way that we do that is we actually have to add in another function. And this one, I'm just going to copy and paste this in. Explaining how we add a new setting to this is actually for another tutorial entirely. So I'm going to not explain it how it works except for the very basics. So I'm just going to copy and paste these two functions in here. And what they are is basically one function to add the settings to our settings page. If we go to settings down here, one of them is going to add the checkboxes right here, and the other one is going to check whether those field types are enabled and then enable them basically. So let's refresh and look and see what that is. So now we have two checkboxes. Check this box to automatically display star rating fields and display number rating fields. So both of those are enabled, just like that. And now let's take a look over here. And they didn't work. Why didn't they work? So that's a good question. Let's find out. They didn't work because this function needs to have a filter attached to it. So this filter is add filter, ECPT, add, ECPT display fields. The name of the function we're attaching, 10 and 3. Just like that. And now, since we have that filter attached, our fields will display. And there they are, rating and number rating. Okay, the one thing that we can do now is we can actually improve these stars. They're kind of plain and boring right now because this is just the plain HTML for them. So let's do some inline styling. I really don't like inline styling, but in this case, a little bit of inline styling is probably better than loading an entire new style sheet. So you could, if you were doing this for a custom project, you would probably just drop these styles into your style.css. But in this case, we're going to just do a little bit of inline. So we're going to do display dot equals style. Just like that. And now inside of here, we're going to add in some styles. So we're going to do ECPT field content. So this is the div right here. Field content span. And we're going to give it a position, relative. We're going to give it a display of inline block. And that's it for the span. So let's take a look and see what that does. It actually shouldn't make hardly any difference at all, which there's actually zero difference that we see. Well, that's good. So now what we want to do is we need to actually we're going to use a before attribute. So we do .ecpt field content. Let's see. .ecpt star rating. So we have this right here. We're going to actually change this to star rating. ECPT star rating span before content / 2605. And basically that is the equivalent of the star special HTML character. So what happens when we do that? Well, let's find out. Nothing. So why do we do that? Well, let me show you. Let's go up here And let's add in color gold, like that. Okay, so now we have this nice gold color in here. But what we don't have is, notice how they're not solid. It's just kind of outlined. So now on this content before, we add position, absolute, refresh, and that didn't work. Oh, I see what I need to do. This color gold, we're actually going to attach this to ECPT field. Nope, sorry. We're going to add in a style tag up here, style equals. And the reason we want to do that is because we want only this div tag itself, this ECPT star rating, to have a color of gold. So what happens when we do that is this. That didn't work. Okay, here's the problem. Basically, I've done .ECPT field content space .ECPT star rating. Well, those are both classes actually applied to this div itself. So I just simply need to get rid of this. And now, here's what we'll see. Solid stars. So what I've done here is just a little trickery using the before attribute to basically add 2 stars on top of each other, which gives us this solid look. If we don't have this right here, we get star outlines. But with that extra little bit of CSS, we can get a solid star. Okay, so this has probably been a little bit confusing, which I totally understand. It's actually pretty complicated. Something that I would suggest you doing is actually go and follow a tutorial by Chris Coyer, who runs CSS Tricks. All of the CSS and all of the HTML for this tutorial has actually been based off of his really great little tutorial right here called Star Ratings with Very Little CSS. And you can see if we go over to his demo, we have this right here. So I've simply used this same HTML and this same CSS in my meta field. So if you're not following the HTML that we just did, go check that out. And then also, of course, if you're having trouble following any of this at all because you're not sure how to register field types with easy content types, go watch this tutorial. It'll walk you through every single step that we just did. The only exception is the code that we added for the settings field, which is basically just some HTML passed through a do action hook, which adds in the option that we see here, each of these options, and then a function that is attached to a filter hook, which simply checks to make sure these are enabled. And this filter is used by the automatic display meta function. So if you're displaying these star ratings manually and you're not using the automatic display function, you really don't even need to worry about these last 2 functions that we've added in here. So if you're confused, if you're completely bewildered, which I would understand entirely, let me know. Ask questions in the comments, give me feedback, etc. So this is a really simple star rating system. And something to note is that this is just for presenting a rating that you as the administrator or the editor have given an item. So I have given this movie a 5-star rating. This is not a way for users to come and actually leave their own rating on the post. That is a completely different topic that is actually much more complex, very doable, but complex. So this is just, if you are running a review site or something like that, this gives you the ability to say, this is our rating, the editor rating, editor review, things like that. What's really cool about this is you could actually, in the same way that we, if you watch the simple event system with easy content types, the same way that we queried events based upon their metadate, we could actually query movies, books, etc. based upon their rating. So we could do a simple database query to pull in all movies that have a 5-star rating, or that have a 4-star rating, or that have a greater than a 4-star rating. All of that is really easy to do, and that would actually work both with the number rating and also the star rating. So anyway, this is a kind of cool little field type that I just whipped up here this afternoon. I'm going to release all of this source code directly to you as a premium member, and then here within the next week or so, I'm going to expand upon it and build a more robust rating system that will be released as an official add-on. Anyway, thanks for watching.